Yeah, it's kind of weird. We don't have an itinerary in front of us.
Somebody came unprepared this morning or what?
You are live.
Yeah, I know.
What do you need?
What are you going to talk about?
Oh,
Nothing.
Okay. All right. Good morning, and
You sent the email
welcome
to me, but
to-
you didn't attach nothing to it, so I couldn't read it.
Didn't attach?
No. All I got was an email that said, this is my plans for underground spring, and then I looked for the
Should've
attachment, nothing's there, so I couldn't print it out.
Well, I printed it up. That counts for anything.
welcome all. This is the Electrical Committee for February 8th, 2024. Present today are Councilman Clay and Councilman Sprinkle, Public Works Director Troy Kruger, Electrical Superintendent Kurt Hawkinson, City Attorney Paul Jensen, Finance Officer Chandra Phillips, and myself. And we have an itinerary that we're going to talk about.
thank you.
If any of you have the opportunity, go back and watch our recognized guest from our last city council meeting. We had darn near an hour 10 presentation from DGR. It was Jared Luzzi of DGR, the electrical engineer. Talk about their final results on the evaluation of the city of Winter. I recognize an acronym from that presentation on the top of this URD, Underground Redevelopment. Is that what that URD stands for?
URD just stands for kind of underground, I guess.
Yeah, underground. I thought Underground
I guess I don't know what it
Redevelopment.
stands for. I'm just used to it.
In front of us today is the plan for the 2024 URD, which will be done by the Winter City Electrical Department. I will turn it over to you, CJ.
Yeah, so we're gonna take, with what Jared said, kind of the phase one is kind of over by the hospital area with that. And so I don't exactly know, I haven't wrote down on there, but kind of on the north side of 10th Street from, I think it's Harding, that kind of goes on the south side of the hospital, that kind of enters right there. From that alley, clear east. And then from there, north up to like the Elder Inn, Super Duper, kind of that area. And then you'd basically be underground from the hospital south on 7th Street between Country Club Road and Golden Prairie.
You said south and you went north.
Yeah, I'm pointing back behind me because I'm facing the wrong way. Back is always south of my big book. So then we'd be kind of underground right there. I did add one little spot that's going to be up on 11th Street from West 11th from Lamro, right there. There's an accessibility problem right there. The line isn't terrible. Back there, it's got a 100 kVA transformer, and I don't know how, if that transformer went bad, how we're gonna get back there. And I don't know, we can do it off our hooks. I don't know if we're man enough to lift one of those up there because they're probably talking about 1,500 pounds to lift it up the pole to get it up there.
Oof.
So, on there, so I'd like to get that buried as far as get the main line buried. And then, the drops we wouldn't mess with, but we can climb back there, walk back there and climb and string everything, my hand work and everything. So that's kind of my plan going on this summer. One thing I did talk to Jared about, so the proposal what they gave with you, with all the money thing that I noticed in our town is there's a lot of alleys where there's three-phase. We don't need three-phase there because it's residential. The one thing I got to talk to him about is as far as kind of our balanced on each phase, you might say, if that's the reasoning behind there. But kind of this plan that I did, I think I cut like 900 feet off of just kind of rerouting it. I did print off I was doing it off of Google Maps, and like the 10th Street alley, kind of right there north is what I'm calling it. That's all three-phase ran down there. And it doesn't need to be. There's a spot where we can alternate the one feed to the hospital or the long-term care that's connected to the hospital. And it would cut it down, I think, 400 feet on Google Earth. So, you know, that's definitely a big cost savings right there. Because I think last year we put in just the wire and pipe, it's about $6.50 a foot. And then you have, you know, your terminations and everything, and it adds up, but, you know, you do three-phase, that's 3 times that much. And with that, as far as like dropping off for single-phase stuff, you gotta set junction boxes right there, and they're $2,200 a pop. And so trying to use as few of those as we can to kind of save some money and use it elsewhere. So, and there's just a few different spots where they ran it overhead, and it probably was the thing to do at the time, that way where we can kind of alternate, feed it, do it a different way, and save it, like to feed the grocery store down there. Yeah, I changed the route of the way the wires ran now, and it saved like another 300 feet too, instead of running 2 different sizes of three-phase around there. And that's something that I was gonna talk to Jared, set up a meeting with him and kind of show him my plan and see if it fits into the bigger picture as far as, okay, we do this next year, then the following year, is it gonna keep tying in correctly? So it's kind of the plan I got.
What about dollars and cents of this projected project you have here for the summer 24?
The down below one is kind of the, footage wise, I think we're gonna be right around 70 is kind of the top for just wire and pipe in the ground. Like them junction boxes.
This is
This
just
is
for
just
wire.
footage of wire and stuff, and then I tried to kind of give you some like, hey, we're gonna use 3 junction boxes, they're $2,200 a piece when I bought them last. The miscellaneous thing, it's kind of tough because, you know, we have a $5 crimp, we got a crimp in there, so I kind of estimated that type of thing, you know, elbows, stuff like that. You know, they're $50 a pop, you need 2 of them on each end of the wire and everything like that. So as far as the budget wise, I think I have $150,000 for underground, and that is, we're gonna be right into it. As far as that goes, and I, you know, this year, we haven't really, from what I can see that we've done, and last year we did do some, I call it, new build stuff, you know, that took us into it. And we haven't been able to work out of that 150. That's about the right number. Granted, stuff's going up too, but that's kind of about our
That's
right
all the
number.
time you have. is
Time,
that?
yeah, to work.
I was just getting a
wise.
budget, you know?
Yeah.
Because this is a high priority, we need to get our
Yeah.
electric going. Are we doing these projects cutting into too much? Well, you answered it, you don't have time to do anything.
I wouldn't think so, you know, and some of the things that I think, you know, if, it might be something that we just get pipe and basements in there and, you know, then get wire. We might run into, you know, with transformers, you know, that's a big thing. We got some that we're having refurbished into pad mounts, the overhead ones. We're supposed to get them back this year. They're about half the cost roughly than a new one. They're not the ideal thing, but it might be the way that we have to go, just with timing and everything like that, and just for cost thing. I'm not saying that they're gonna come back with a 3-year warranty on them, which is no different than a new one. And there's a lot of towns that put them out there, too. And like I said, you don't know when they're gonna go, and I think that's a great option for us to do. That way, when we are taking it down, pad mount, we can take that transformer off the pole, put it in there, get it refurbished into a pad mount, use it for next year type of a thing. And so I didn't include any of the transformer costs in there just because it's, I don't know which sizes. I didn't look at them too much as far as that. You know, I was just doing it right off of a map, trying to figure where each one goes, but I think that would be a cost savings and a good path to go to the town as long as we don't start seeing problems with them. But we, like, up in Brookings, we took care of White, and they used a lot of transformers like that. I don't think the 10 years that I was up there that we ever had to go up there and change a transformer out for them, so I don't think they're a bad product, but one of the, the pipe thing, that's $1.79 when I ordered it last year a foot. Wire was, kinda got a deal on that from what some of the other ones were. It was about 50 in savings. I think it was $4.50 roughly, $4.60, something like that, right around there per foot on wire. We're sitting good on it as far as that goes too, so haven't had to order any basements or anything like that for transformers, but they're probably right around that $500 to $700 range too. The junction boxes, had to order those, and those are $2,200, so.
You answered my question. I was just wanting to know with this extra stuff that DGR told us, if you're needing more money, if we're gonna have to look at the budget, subsidize the budget. No.
With that, I watched it. I guess my opinion, I'd just focus on that substation. The one thing about, we have 30 poles go down, we can find mutual aid pretty quickly. Co-ops, other places, and get this stuff. If that goes down, we're not calling people to help us because they don't have anything to help us with on there. That's kind of the biggest thing. I mean, that's been my worry since I got there. And that's where I would say, I mean, if it takes the town longer to go underground, it is what it is, but it's not something that we couldn't fix where it's a little bit tougher.
You mean?
The substation, yeah. That's where I would focus on as far as any extra spending, as far as this department goes on there. I wouldn't worry too much about burying the town until that's done, just let us plug away at what we can on it and stuff like that. And if it's something that if you wanted to cut, we had to cut back even more on there, and we just bought pipe, basements, and just had it set up ready to go, and then be able to pull wire later. I mean, that's always an option too, to run the overhead down later and with his numbers, I mean, that was burying every service drop to the town too, and stuff, so it added up in there. But some of those projects that he does have, we'd have to hire a contractor to do it, just because our equipment's too small. There's a few bores and stuff like that. We'll probably have to hire a contractor to do it because our boring machine's too small. Like, if we ever have to punch on, kind of on this one to tie it in, if we have to punch across the, like 18 right there, just from where you'd have to set up to where you'd have to get, we don't have enough rod in our boring machine to get it. We'd have to probably hire somebody to do that, which is a little bit more of an expense, but wouldn't have to add any product. We'd have the product in hand, and I don't know what probably $20 a foot, I would think. So on a 500-foot bore, you're looking at $1,000, $1,500 for somebody to do it.
Kurt, the other night, when Jared was talking about that, was it the transfer station, the switch or something, or is it a transformer out there?
Transformer and then the switch gear is what he was talking about, yeah. Yeah, So like he said, like our stuff is susceptible to, varmints and stuff like that. The one he's talking about, I've been in them. Aurora up there had them, and we did all their kind of maintenance if they had an outage and stuff. So I've been in them. They're a nice unit for a substation. Everything's contained and everything like that. And I don't know if he mentioned, he said that those are like a 50+ year lifespan on them. You might have to change your relays and stuff like that in them, 20, 30 years down the road, but it's all self-contained. And I think they're kind of like a drop-off unit where they just drop them off, they're all wired, then you just bring your feeders in and do it that route. Like Brookings, we built substations from basically the ground up on there, and like that's what I did for the last 5 years was wire them, and they did them a little bit different. I kind of talked to him about that, and he said this would probably be a little bit better route for us to go just with the sizing on there. They have more substations to, divert load where we're kind of on the one on it, so yeah.
Right now, all 3 feeders are overhead,
Yeah, yep,
all on the same spot.
yep. It's kind of one of those things, because we asked him, he did give us kind of a price about putting a substation up north, a town. It was $10 million. That's kind of the ideal thing, but yeah, can you afford that? Okay, no, I don't think we can sit around and wait till we could afford it too, so this is about the best option. And you can't harden, and I think you kind of mentioned that, can't harden your system up for everything. It just is what it is, at some point. That's not the ideal thing. Burying one of them would definitely help, with it. And with that, it's all poles and stuff like that where we'd be able to fix it. Yeah, we might be out and everything too. Like Brookings, they had their 115 lines running parallel on either side of the town. That ratio happened 2 years ago. Took out their 115 lines. They sat in the dark for 2 days, and they have 8 substations, to feed and stuff like that. You can't predict Mother Nature's kind of the bad thing. And
Brookings was dark for 2 days.
yeah, they have 115 line that they own. They didn't have a clear-cut answer of how they were going to manage maintaining it. It was kind of the thing, and they thought, well, we'll get somebody if something happens. Well, it took the whole east side of the state. Well, all these other places were working for these other spots that they had been working, and they were a tough time getting somebody to come in there, like a contractor, to come in there and help them, because they were going to help like East River and stuff like that.
So theoretically, with that one line underground, we'd still be able to feed the town if there was no damage to the distribution system, and we could backfeed around.
I think he sized the wire to do that. I don't know about these breakers, if the breakers can handle the town. Like we have 3 OCRs, I call them breakers, but I don't know what their amp capacity is in there. I think they might be 280s on them, but I'd have to look on there. And that's another thing, you can overload your wire, then you can overload your breaker. You overload your wire's gonna burn down. You overload your breaker, it's gonna trip on there. But I think he was looking at that wire size that would be able to, because we had mentioned that to him, and they thought that 750 they would be able to pick up 3. And I know like the new switchgear he was talking about, it would be there to have it. The breakers would be big enough to do that, but I'd have to look into that. He thought right now, from the last talks on that if one of them goes down, or if all 3 of them except for one of them go down, we'd be able to backfeed 2 of them onto one for sure, the way it sits right now. So a third of the town would be out. The one thing he brought up, SCADA. So like if you had a SCADA thing, you could look at that real time flip a switch, see how much load you pick up, and kind of start saying, well, we're getting close to our threshold. We don't have that, we'd have to stand out there and kind of do it. We don't have as many switches out there. And that was something that I talked to Ty about. He said that when he first got here, it seemed like if they blew a fuse, they lost a third of the town, like that. And he said, that's one thing that DGNR, like, that's something that's tough for me, not being like an engineer or anything, as far as where do we need to sectionalize, how much are we gonna take out and stuff like that, as far as, we don't wanna, like, was it last year, 2 years ago, we had a pole start on fire down by the hospital. We took a third of the town out. We cut fuses in on that thing. We don't wanna do that. And you know, you can kinda say, well, fuse goes out, we wanna take out 2 blocks or something like that. You know, keep it small. You don't wanna have one at every transformer. That isn't really cost effective, but keep your outages small, keep it small that you can troubleshoot it to just a certain area, you know, because technically on that, I mean, you're driving a third of the time to figure out what's wrong here, and then you can kind of start backfeeding and stuff like that, so. And as we move forward, we're loop feeding everything for the most part, like a single transformer out there. We're not necessarily gonna loop feed that. There are some spots in town that, I don't know what they did back then, but it was kind of I don't want to call it like a loop radial, because they would loop the main thing, but then they would go to a transformer and that's radial. And it works on that because technically if that transformer went bad, you just have to stop it there. And that's kind of where, if you did it kind of on like a smaller alley or something like that, where there's 4 or 5 houses, just one wire going there and then kind of coming back to it possibly, and then looping it later. I haven't really, one of them that I kind of looked at, it was, to get to it, to loop it, it was gonna be like 800 or 1,000 feet, so now you're looking at, you know, $6,000 to save one transformer. Is that cost effective? You know, that's some things, I mean, we ran into it to Brookings, and then as a lineman, you know, out there in the middle of the night, I'm like, get this sucker loop fed, so all I can do is pop power back in and come back in the morning and fix it, and not be out there all night. But, you know, looking at it now, it's like, is it cost effective, you know, to do stuff like that? But a lot of them, we're gonna have to, you know, loop feed main ones and stuff like that too, but.
A lot of what ifs. But I got some stuff we gotta talk about. We got a short time here.
Well, I didn't think you had anything.
Huh?
I didn't think you had anything, nothing.
No, I got 3 things we need to talk about.
Okay.
The bucket truck. So I think Austin Clunt sat in for you the last time this came up, and it was recommended out of this committee that we purchase the bucket outright. I don't know if you read those minutes or not.
Chad Hansen.
What? Cora, main guy. I got company coming for census stuff. But anyways, so that was, it was supposed to be on the agenda last week. We took it off. We don't have a final price on the bucket truck yet for that purchase. So I've got in contact with Altech and the guy that I'm talking to over there. The holdup on the final price right now is with going through Sourcewell, there's a few parts on the truck that weren't spec'd on the Sourcewell spec. So they are working with Sourcewell to resolve that issue. So the truck will probably be cheaper than what they quoted us, but they have to get the Sourcewell to sign off on those parts that were spec'd out on that truck before we can go forward with that price. So that's where the truck is at. Are you good with that? I mean,
Do we have the money in the budget?
it's out of committee, it's out of,
Yeah,
We
Okay.
budgeted for it?
no, this is gonna be paid out of cash.
You budgeted for a portion of it, for a partial lease, but after they looked at it and how much it was going to save.
It was
city
what?
Not pay interest. they
50 grand just on interest, wasn't it?
I think 56.
We saved 50,000?
Yeah.
Okay,
He's got the money, so.
yes, then,
So that's where we're at on the bucket truck. I'm waiting to hear back from this Jeff at LTEC, and when they get that stuff resolved, then we'll have a purchase price on the bucket truck. The bucket truck, we won't see it till late April, 1st of May at the soonest, so it's not like it's.
so are we rotating through, then is that right? Taking the old one down the parks and the other one in parks is getting repurposed?
Yeah, that's kind of what we decided, I thought.
The one that they're using now it's old and it's getting outdated, but it's still for just using it for trimming trees and, doing things like that. I think it's still a good vehicle for the city to hang on to. We do have one down there that it's just coming apart. All the
OLD.
hydraulic hoses on it are worn and cracking, and it's leaking hydraulic fluid, and it's got issues, but it's not worth putting any money into because it's not worth anything. So that one we would surplus.
That's what I was getting at, yeah.
Yep. Command center, had a discussion with Ray the other day, and Kurt's on board with this. One of the biggest obstacles we have right now is, we have a firmware update that has to be done by 1st of July-ish. Otherwise, our metering equipment becomes, it loses a lot of its functionality, so we need to get that firmware thing done.
It becomes end of life. You'll never be able to do updates again if you don't get this one in, except
Right.
for the bare minimum.
Not to it'll shrink down the abilities of our metering equipment. So the other thing, I got a couple questions I got to get a hold of Herbie on. We will have some meters that will be our stock meters, and so those meters, either Ray has to set up some kind of a system where he can plug in a bunch of meters and then do the firmware update on them, or maybe it's a possibility that we can send them back to Landis, or, I just want to know what the options are, because we also have load control switches, and we've only got a few load control switches into date. So we need to see if this firmware update affects those load control switches. If so, that's probably something where we might have to send those back to Landis or do something in that manner. Kurt's got about, if he really wanted to get after it,
Can't get after it right now. Product delays. I've been on seals, meter seals. I called them again, and 8 weeks, but hopefully they said shipment this week for our meter seals, but I think we got 400 left, right around the 450, something like that to put in. But once we got them, we're good to go.
and then the last piece of information I have for you, the cabinet for the stoplight arrived.
Oh,
Well, it's supposed to be here today. So,
that is a hot topic around the community.
yes, that's why I'm saying it publicly right now. The cabinet has arrived, or will arrive today.
They heard.
I'm a little, kind of want to work this with the DOT, the traffic situation when we do this. It's a total removal of the current piece of equipment, so that cabinet that sits on the corner there, the whole thing has to come out, and then a whole new one has to be set down, and it's gonna be it's not gonna be like a 2-hour deal, it's gonna be an all-day deal. So I let Doug and Sherman and Brad Nord know, and they're gonna help us out with maybe some message boards on the highway to alert people what's going on, because the lights will be down, I'm guessing, the better part of a day while they do this, while they rewire and all this stuff. And we will post it, we'll put it on when I have a confirmed date, when they can get a tech down here from Iowa to get up here and do the installation, get all the wiring done, then I will, and now, I'm gonna call today, follow up on that, assuming that the cabinet shows up when it should show up. I will call them as soon as I know we have it, and then line up a date for them to get their person down here, and we'll try and get it in as quickly as we can, but I'm guessing, next week sometime.
The lights will be dark, right? Not-
It'll be dark, there'll
I-
be no power to it.
My recommendation, whatever it is, my thoughts on it are, is put a stop sign in the turning lane, because when this first started, people were blowing right through them. We got a lot of people coming through town that they aren't gonna stop, and it could create a hazardous situation with people coming through and not stopping, not knowing, because that one stop sign by American Family, you don't see it. If you don't know, you ain't gonna see it.
Yeah, I saw a similar setup in Spearfish this summer when we were out there. They were doing construction, they were installing a stoplight, and they had a row of cones, like 10 cones set out, barrels, they had barrels, and then right in the middle of the intersection, in the turning lane, they had a stop sign sitting right there on all four corners, or all four intersections, and they had message boards up before, kind of describing the situation, and
That
so-
stoplight's been down for so long that my feeling is when we do get it working and it's sitting there and it's red light, they're gonna pull up and stop and take off.
Yeah, it might happen. And maybe the DOT would be kind enough to let us, use those message boards for a while, I don't know. But yeah, it's gonna be another adjustment period, but I'm just glad it's gonna be fixed. It's been a long time, July 7th or something like that, when that thing got struck by lightning. So,
Everybody's gotten used to just stopping and then going, and
some people don't even stop. Still.
I still stop at the stop.
That is all I have.
One last thing, URD, underground residential distribution.
You feel better now? You Googled it? Oh, you Googled it? Okay. I feel better.
When Lucy's talking to you next time, you go, you're talking about underground.
Yeah, tell him something he doesn't know.
Already knows.